Please, don't make me say his name twice. The microphone catches the smallest tremor in Evelyn Cross's breath, so small it could be mistaken for the air conditioning in the ballroom. Cameras blink like patient insects. A chandelier the size of a small galaxy hangs above a sea of black suits and pearl necklaces. On the giant screen behind her, a photo of a man smiling in sunlight, hand lifted mid-wave, as if he's about to step out of the frame and apologize for being late. Evelyn's fingers curl around the edges of the lectern. Her wedding ring flashes once, cold and bright. She looks out at the room. Investors, journalists, partners, the board, the people who called her brave to her face and called her naive behind her back. She finds one particular face near the front row, Margaret Cross, her mother-in-law, sitting like a statue carved from grief and judgment. Evelyn's voice lands clean, almost gentle. Nathan Cross is not dead. For a half-second, the room doesn't understand the sentence. Then it understands, and the air changes. Someone gasps, sharp, offended. A chair scrapes. A camera operator lowers his rig and stares. Lena Park, the investigative reporter, leans forward like a swimmer who just felt the current shift. Evelyn continues before the shock can turn into noise. A year ago, we found his car at the bottom of Blackwater Cliffs. We searched, we prayed, we mourned, and we were told to accept an accident. Her eyes sweep over the audience again, as if she's counting every person who ever told her to move on. But while you were sending flowers, someone was wiring money. A murmur, a ripple. The word money always wakes people up faster than tragedy. Evelyn lifts a folder from the lectern. Thick, tabbed, labeled. She sets it down with a soft thud that sounds louder than it should. I'm not here to ask for sympathy, she says. I'm here to return something. Her gaze holds steady, almost tender, until it isn't. The truth. And in that moment, the widow everyone underestimated becomes something else entirely. Something colder than grief, sharper than rage. Because Evelyn isn't just telling a story. She's setting a trap in front of the whole world, and she knows exactly who is going to walk into it. A beat. Then, to understand why I'm standing here, Evelyn says, we have to go back. Not to the day he vanished, but to the night he decided to leave us alive. The ballroom lights shimmer. The screen behind her fades to black, and the story rewinds. There are places that look designed for secrets. Blackwater Cliffs is one of them. Jagged rock, narrow road, wind that never stops moving, and a drop so steep it feels like the ocean is waiting with its mouth open. On the morning they found Nathan's car, the sky was the color of wet ash. The police lights turned the fog into bruised blue. Evelyn arrived in a coat she didn't remember putting on, hair still damp from the shower she hadn't finished. She stepped out of her car and saw the crowd before she saw the wreck. 2 officers stood at the line of yellow tape. A fire truck idled. A tow operator smoked with the patience of someone who had seen too many families receive the wrong kind of news. Detective Mara Klein met Evelyn halfway. She had tired eyes and the careful posture of someone trying not to break. Mrs. Cross, Mara said softly. Evelyn heard the softness and hated it immediately. Where is he? She asked. Mara didn't answer right away. Her silence was an answer with teeth. Evelyn walked forward anyway. The car was down there, wedged against a shelf of rock, battered like a metal animal thrown by a giant. The windshield was shattered. One headlight still blinked weakly, as if the vehicle didn't know it was supposed to be dead. Evelyn's heart did something strange. It didn't race. It didn't stop. It just moved sideways, as if trying to escape her body. Did you? She couldn't finish the sentence. Mara stood close enough for Evelyn to smell coffee on her breath. There's no body, the detective said. Not inside, not around the site. Dive team is searching. Evelyn stared down at the wreck, waiting for the world to correct itself. No body, not inside, not around. It didn't make sense. Accidents didn't steal only the person and leave the machine behind like a receipt. Mara watched her carefully. Do you know why he was out here? Evelyn's mind flipped through the last 24 hours. Nathan leaving early, adjusting his cufflinks too many times, kissing her cheek too quickly. The way he avoided looking at their daughter, Piper, at breakfast, like eye contact would have made leaving harder. He said he had a meeting, Evelyn whispered. He said it was important. Do you know with who? Evelyn shook her head, and in that motion she felt a strange guilt, like a wife should know every door her husband walked through. Mara's expression tightened. We'll keep searching, but I want you to prepare. Don't, Evelyn cut in, voice flat. Don't do that. Mara nodded once like she understood, like she didn't. The search lasted hours, then days, then weeks. The ocean gave up nothing. The cliff gave up nothing. Eventually, it was just a file on a desk and a woman still expecting a door to open. And the world did what it always does. It moved on. Grief is not loud all the time. Sometimes grief is a calendar. Evelyn's grief became a collection of dates she couldn't escape. The day the case went cold, the day the divers stopped coming, the day Nathan's company partners stopped calling, the day the florist stopped sending condolences and started sending invoices. Cross Meridian Group had been Nathan's pride, his empire, his proof that he wasn't just a boy from a modest neighborhood who got lucky. He built it like a fortress and invited everyone to admire the walls. But after his disappearance, the fortress became a battlefield. The board wanted stability, investors wanted reassurance, vendors wanted payment, the press wanted a headline that would fit inside a push notification. And Margaret Cross, Nathan's mother, wanted control. On the day the police officially listed Nathan as presumed deceased, Margaret arrived at Evelyn's house in a black suit so crisp it looked like armor. She walked in without asking, heels clicking like punctuation. I've spoken to the board, Margaret said, not bothering with greetings. They agree we need a clear plan. Evelyn sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Nathan used to drink his coffee too fast and complain it was lukewarm. A mug sat in front of her now, untouched, cooling into bitterness. What plan? Evelyn asked. Margaret's eyes flicked to Piper's drawing on the fridge, a stick-figure family with 4 smiles, as if the child's marker could rewrite the world. The plan that keeps your daughter secure, Margaret said. The plan that keeps my son's legacy intact. Evelyn felt her jaw tighten. You mean the plan that keeps you in charge? Margaret's lips pressed together, and for a moment the grief in her face almost looked human. Then it hardened again. Nathan trusted me, Margaret said. He always did. Evelyn's laugh came out without warmth. Nathan trusted you with his expectations. He trusted me with everything else. Margaret took a breath as if patience cost her money. Evelyn, you are emotional. That's understandable. But this is business. That word, emotional, hit Evelyn like a slap disguised as concern. Evelyn stood. She was not tall, but she had learned something this past year. Height isn't the same as presence. I've kept this business alive for 12 months, Evelyn said, voice steady. I've made payroll. I've retained clients. I've negotiated with people who smelled blood in the water the moment my husband vanished. Margaret's gaze narrowed. You're doing your best. But best isn't the same as qualified. Evelyn looked at her mother-in-law and realized, with an awful clarity, that Margaret had already decided what kind of woman Evelyn was. A placeholder, a weak link, a grieving wife who would eventually crumble and hand over the keys. Evelyn picked up the cold mug. The coffee had been sitting too long. She could smell the sour edge. This is my house, Evelyn said quietly. And this is my company, too. If you want a plan, here it is. I'm not going anywhere. Margaret stared at her, then nodded once as if accepting a verdict she disliked. I hope you understand what you're choosing. Margaret said. Evelyn did understand. She was choosing to stay standing in a world that wanted her on her knees. In public, people praised Evelyn. In private, they tested her. Victor Shaw, the CFO, always carried a tablet like it was a shield. He spoke in numbers the way some men speak in threats, politely, with the certainty that you can't argue with math. One evening, after the office emptied and the windows turned into mirrors reflecting fluorescent exhaustion, Victor stepped into Evelyn's office. "We need to talk," he said. Evelyn didn't look up from the document she was reviewing. "If this is about the Ridgewell contract, I've already—" "It's not about Ridgewell," Victor cut in. "It's about our liabilities." Evelyn's pen paused. "Go on." Victor hesitated, like he disliked the words he was about to say. Then he laid the tablet on her desk and rotated it toward her. A spreadsheet filled the screen. Columns, rows, red figures, interest rates, payment schedules. Evelyn's throat tightened. "This is worse than I thought," she murmured. Victor nodded. "Nathan took on debt we didn't disclose publicly. Some of it is tied to expansion projects that never materialized. If we miss 2 more payments—" "We won't," Evelyn said quickly, too quickly. "We'll restructure." Victor's eyes flicked up. "With what leverage? The board is nervous. Investors are watching. Ridgewell Capital is circling like—" "Don't finish that sentence," Evelyn said, voice sharp. Victor swallowed. "We need cash, or we need someone willing to absorb the risk." Evelyn leaned back slowly, mind racing. She thought of Nathan's last months, late nights, secret calls, the way he stared at his phone like it contained a verdict. She had assumed it was stress. But this was a storm hidden under a calm surface. "Why didn't I know?" Evelyn asked, mostly to herself. Victor's expression shifted, subtle, almost regretful. "Nathan didn't want you worried." Evelyn's hands clenched. "Or he didn't want me asking questions." Victor didn't respond. Silence sat between them, heavy. Evelyn stared at the red numbers until they blurred, then forced herself to breathe. "Send me everything," she said. "Every loan, every obligation, every agreement Nathan signed." Victor hesitated. "Some of it is complicated." Evelyn's eyes lifted. "Then untangle it." Victor nodded, but something in his face looked like someone closing a door. After he left, Evelyn sat alone with the glow of the spreadsheet and a thought she didn't want to name. What if Nathan didn't disappear because of an accident? What if he disappeared because of a decision? The clue didn't arrive like thunder. It arrived like a paper cut, small, sharp, easy to ignore, until it bleeds. It happened on an afternoon when Evelyn was doing the kind of work that grief makes normal. Sorting through old files, closing accounts, updating records, trying to bring order to a life that had become a question mark. She was in the study, Nathan's old space. His desk still held a pen in the exact place he left it. A framed photo of Piper sat angled toward the chair, as if he'd needed to see her while working. Evelyn opened a locked drawer using a key she found on the ring Nathan used to keep in his pocket. She didn't remember deciding to look. Her hands just moved, guided by something deeper than curiosity. Inside, documents, folders, old passports, warranty papers, and one envelope sealed in thick, cream-colored paper. No label. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a bank statement, not from their primary accounts, a different institution, a different account number, and a balance that made Evelyn's breath catch. She flipped the page. Transfers. Regular, deliberate, like a heartbeat. The recipient details were partially obscured, but one line was clear. Harbor Light Bay, Coastal Branch. Evelyn stared at the words until they stopped being ink and became a sound in her head. Harbor Light Bay, the coastal town they used to talk about on lazy Sunday mornings. The someday place. The retirement dream they'd never seriously planned because Nathan always had another goal, another deal, another mountain to climb. Harbor Light, Evelyn whispered aloud. Her skin prickled. She scanned further down the statement and found another detail. A name. Not Nathan Cross. A different one. Elliot Ward. Evelyn felt her heart drop into her stomach. A fake name. Tied to their dream town. Tied to transfers that continued after Nathan vanished. She sat very still, listening to the quiet house. In the kitchen, the refrigerator hummed. Outside, a distant car passed, tires whispering on wet pavement. And in Evelyn's mind, a door cracked open. Not hope, not relief. Something colder. Suspicion. Evelyn called Detective Mara Klein the next morning. Mara answered on the third ring, voice strained with the exhaustion of someone who never really clocks out. Klein. It's Evelyn Cross, Evelyn said. A pause. Mrs. Cross. Are you... I found something, Evelyn interrupted. A bank account. Hidden. Transfers. Harbor Light Bay. Silence. Then Mara's tone changed. Not skeptical, not excited. Cautious. You're sure it's connected to Nathan? It was in his locked drawer, Evelyn said, and the transfers continue. Mara exhaled slowly. Mrs. Cross, the case is categorized as an accident. No evidence of foul play. No body, yes, but what? Evelyn's voice sharpened. You want me to accept that my husband vanished and also created a secret account under someone else's name, and that's normal? Mara hesitated. I'm saying it may not be enough to reopen a full investigation without a stronger link. Evelyn closed her eyes, anger burning behind her ribs. So you're not going to do anything? I didn't say that, Mara replied gently. I can make a note. I can request. By the time your request moves through paperwork, Evelyn said, whatever this is will be gone. Mara's voice lowered. Evelyn, be careful. If this is fraud, or if someone's involved... I've been careful for a year, Evelyn said, and the words tasted like metal. It got me nothing. Mara fell silent again. Then, if you go there, if you go to Harbor Light Bay, don't confront anyone alone. Evelyn almost laughed. Alone was the only way she'd lived this past year. I'll manage, she said. After she hung up, Evelyn stood at the window and watched rain drag thin lines down the glass. A year ago, she had waited for answers to come to her. Today, she decided she would go take them. Harbor Light Bay smelled like salt and old wood. Evelyn arrived on a gray afternoon, the town wrapped in fog so thick it felt like the world had been erased beyond the next block. Seagulls cried somewhere unseen. A lighthouse bell sounded faintly in the distance, low, steady, like a warning that never learned to stop. She parked near the marina and sat in the car for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, feeling the thud of her heartbeat. This was the place Nathan had described in soft voices at night. A cottage with a porch, morning coffee with ocean air. No meetings, no pressure, no mother's expectations, no debt, no truth. Evelyn took the bank statement, folded it carefully, and stepped out into the damp cold. She walked past seafood restaurants with chalkboard menus, past antique shops, past locals who glanced at her with mild curiosity and then looked away. She followed the address linked to the account. It led her to a quiet street lined with weathered houses. Wind chimes clicked softly as she passed. A dog barked once and then stopped, as if reconsidering the effort. The house at the end of the street was modest, painted pale blue. A small porch, a single rocking chair, a potted plant that looked recently cared for. Evelyn's stomach tightened. This was not a place someone accidentally ended up. This was a place someone chose. She climbed the steps, knocked. The sound was louder than she expected. A moment passed, then another. Evelyn's fingers curled, ready to knock again. The door opened, and there he was. Not a ghost, not a memory. not a photograph on a screen. A living man with a different haircut and a slightly different posture, like someone who had been practicing being invisible. His eyes widened. For a heartbeat, Nathan Cross looked like a boy caught stealing. Then his face shifted into something else. Annoyance, panic, calculation. "Evelyn," he whispered, as if saying her name too loudly might collapse the illusion. Evelyn stared at him, not blinking. She noticed details with terrifying clarity. A faint tan line where a ring used to be, a small scar near his jaw she didn't recognize, the way he held the door with his left hand like he was ready to close it fast. Behind him, the house smelled like coffee and clean laundry. A life. A new one. Evelyn's voice came out quiet. "Hello, Nathan." He flinched at his name. "You can't be here." Evelyn's mouth twisted into something that wasn't a smile. "I drove 4 hours. I think I can be wherever I want." Nathan's eyes darted down the street as if expecting police to appear. "How did you—" Evelyn lifted the folded statement slightly. "Money leaves footprints, even when people don't." Nathan's face hardened. This wasn't supposed to happen. Evelyn's laugh was soft, dry. "No, this wasn't." A long moment. Then Nathan stepped back and opened the door wider. "Come in," he said, voice tight, "before someone sees." Evelyn walked past him, and the act of crossing that threshold felt like stepping into an alternate timeline, the one where he chose himself over everyone else. She stood in the living room and looked around. No family photos, no reminders. The walls were bare except for a framed map of the coastline. A duffel bag sat near the sofa, half-zipped, like he might run again if the wrong sound happened outside. Nathan shut the door behind her. Evelyn turned slowly to face him. For a second, she waited for something. An apology, tears, an explanation that would make her grief feel less like a joke. Nathan didn't give her any of that. Instead, he spoke like a man defending a business decision. "I didn't have a choice," he said. Evelyn stared at him. "You didn't have a choice." Nathan ran a hand through his hair. "You don't understand what was happening. The debt, Evelyn. The pressure. Ridgewell. The board. My mother—" "Don't," Evelyn snapped, and the sharpness surprised even her. "Don't say her name like she held your steering wheel." Nathan's face tightened. "It was crushing me." "And so you crushed me instead?" Evelyn's voice stayed low, but every word felt like glass. "You left me with your company, your loans, your mother, your public funeral, your daughter's questions." Nathan flinched at that. "Piper." "She cried herself to sleep for months," Evelyn said. "She asked me if you were cold under the ocean." Nathan's eyes flickered. For a brief moment, guilt surfaced like a bubble. Then it sank again. "I thought she'd be better off," he said, and he sounded like he believed it. Evelyn's hands trembled. She forced them still. "Better off, with a father who chose to become a ghost." Nathan's jaw clenched. "I'm alive." "Yes," Evelyn whispered, and something in her voice shifted. "You are." A pause. Then Nathan exhaled as if trying to regain control. "I can't go back. If I go back, I lose everything. They'll destroy me." Evelyn took a step closer. "You already destroyed something." Nathan swallowed. "I did it to survive." Evelyn looked at the man she married and realized with brutal clarity that he didn't view what he did as betrayal. He viewed it as strategy. And if betrayal is strategy to someone, then love is just a tool. Evelyn nodded slowly, as if acknowledging a business proposal. "Okay," she said. Nathan blinked. "Okay?" Evelyn's calmness unsettled him more than anger would have. "I understand," Evelyn said softly. "You want to stay dead." Nathan's shoulders loosened, relief flashing across his face before he could hide it. "Evelyn, I knew you'd—" She raised a hand. I'm not here to drag you back, Evelyn said. I'm here to negotiate. Nathan frowned. Negotiate what? Evelyn reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Not the bank statement. Something thicker. Prepared. Organized. Nathan's eyes narrowed. What is that? Evelyn opened the folder and placed it on the coffee table. Your remaining assets, she said. Your shares. Your authority to sign. The last pieces of Cross Meridian that you still own, legally. Nathan stared at the papers. How do you have... I had a year, Evelyn said, voice level. A year to learn what you hid from me. A year to find every crack in your fortress. Nathan's face tightened. Evelyn, you can't just... I can, she said. And here's the deal. You sign these documents transferring everything to me. Full control, full ownership of what's left. In exchange... She let the words hang for a moment. Nathan's eyes lifted to hers. In exchange? Evelyn's gaze was steady, unblinking. In exchange, I keep you dead, she said. The lighthouse bell in the distance sounded again, low and patient. Nathan stared at her, processing. Then slowly he smiled, small, relieved, almost proud. You're stronger than I thought, he said, as if it was a compliment. Evelyn didn't react. Nathan leaned forward. And you won't call the police. Evelyn tilted her head slightly. You're asking for trust. Nathan spread his hands. I'm asking for mercy. Evelyn's expression didn't change. No, she said. You're asking for convenience. Nathan's smile faltered. Evelyn tapped the papers lightly with one finger. Sign. Or I walk out that door and call Detective Klein before I reach my car. Nathan's jaw clenched. You wouldn't. Evelyn's eyes stayed calm. Try me. A long silence stretched. The kind of silence where you can hear the house settling, the ocean breathing, the truth shifting into place. Nathan finally picked up a pen from the table. His hand shook slightly. He looked up at Evelyn. If I sign, you'll let me disappear. Evelyn's voice was gentle, almost kind. Yes, she said. You'll be free. Nathan exhaled, and that exhale sounded like surrender. He signed, page after page, signature after signature. As he wrote his name, Evelyn watched him the way you watch someone dig their own hole without noticing the ground is unstable. When he finished, he slid the papers across the table. There, he said. It's done. Evelyn gathered them carefully, tucking them back into the folder with a neatness that felt almost ceremonial. Nathan tried to read her face. Evelyn, I didn't want to hurt you. Evelyn looked at him, and for the first time since arriving, her eyes softened, just a fraction. I believe you, she said. Nathan's shoulders relaxed again, and Evelyn's softness became the final thing he misunderstood. Because she didn't mean, I believe you loved me. She meant, I believe you love yourself more. Evelyn stood. Nathan followed her to the door. You'll keep your promise, he said, voice almost pleading now. Evelyn turned back once, hand on the knob. I will, she said, and she walked out into the fog, carrying his signatures like a match in her pocket. Evelyn didn't call the police on the drive home. She didn't scream into the steering wheel. She didn't shatter. She did something far more dangerous. She planned. In Ashford City, the company was a bleeding animal. Ridgewell Capital had increased pressure. The board demanded updates. Margaret Cross demanded obedience. Victor Shaw demanded solutions in the language of numbers. Evelyn gave them something they weren't expecting: control. Within a week, she filed the documents. Within 2 weeks, she held an emergency board meeting. Within 3, Cross Meridian Group stopped wobbling and started shifting, slowly, deliberately, into her hands. Victor Shaw watched her at the meeting with a new expression: respect. And something else. fear. When Evelyn met with her lawyer, Graham Holt, he didn't ask why she suddenly had Nathan's signatures. He looked at her, then at the paperwork, and said carefully, "These are comprehensive." Evelyn nodded. "I wanted no gaps." Graham hesitated. "Evelyn, if Nathan is alive—" Evelyn's gaze cut to him. "If he were alive, Graham, I wouldn't be sitting here discussing paperwork." The lie came out smooth. Graham studied her, then nodded slowly, as if accepting the version of reality she handed him. "Understood," he said. Evelyn's fingers rested on the edge of the table. "I want to schedule a memorial." Graham blinked. "A memorial? It's been a year." "I know," Evelyn said. "That's why it will matter." Evelyn planned the memorial the way Nathan used to plan product launches. Every detail calculated. The venue, a grand ballroom downtown, the kind investors liked. Neutral, polished, expensive enough to signal importance. The guest list. Everyone who mattered, everyone who doubted her, everyone who had tried to take something from her while she was grieving. The media, invited through carefully chosen channels. Not gossip outlets, reputable ones, business journals, local stations, national coverage. Lena Park received her invitation with a handwritten note. "If you want the truth, come listen." Lena arrived early on the day of the memorial, notebook in hand, eyes sharp. Evelyn greeted her with calm warmth and said, "Thank you for coming." Lena studied her. "People don't host memorials like this unless they're trying to say something." Evelyn's smile was faint. "Then stay close." Margaret confronted Evelyn the night before the event. She came to the house dressed in black again, as if she hadn't worn anything else for a year. "This is unnecessary," Margaret said, standing in the foyer like she owned the space. "We already had services." "This one is for the public," Evelyn replied, adjusting a cuff on her blouse. She looked rested. Too rested. It unnerved Margaret. Margaret's voice lowered. "You're making a spectacle." Evelyn met her gaze. "I'm making closure." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Closure is private." Evelyn's expression didn't change. "Grief was private. Business wasn't." Margaret stepped closer. "You think you can replace my son?" Evelyn's voice turned quiet. "I'm not replacing him." Margaret's lips trembled. "Then what are you doing?" Evelyn looked at her mother-in-law for a moment, and something like pity flickered. Brief, reluctant. "I'm finishing what he started," Evelyn said. Margaret leaned back slightly, as if the words carried a chill. "Be careful, Evelyn," she said. "In this family, truth has a price." Evelyn's smile was calm and thin. "I can afford it," she replied. Victor requested a private meeting 2 days before the memorial. They sat in Evelyn's office after hours. The city outside glowed like a circuit board. Victor cleared his throat. "You've been moving decisively." Evelyn didn't look up from the papers she was reviewing. "That's what leadership is." Victor nodded slowly. "The board is impressed. Ridgewell is frustrated." Evelyn lifted her gaze. "Good." Victor hesitated, then said, "I need to ask you something. Off the record." Evelyn's expression stayed neutral. "Ask." Victor's fingers tightened around his tablet. "Did you find Nathan?" A beat. Evelyn leaned back in her chair. The air in the room sharpened. Victor watched her face like someone waiting for a crack. Evelyn's voice was even. "Why would you ask that?" Victor swallowed. "Because the numbers changed. You suddenly had leverage you didn't have a month ago, and you're calmer." Evelyn's mouth curved slightly. "Maybe grief finally got tired of living here." Victor didn't smile. Evelyn leaned forward. "If you have evidence of anything, Victor, say it clearly, Victor's eyes flicked away. I don't. You just want to know if the ghost is real, Evelyn finished. Victor's jaw tightened. If he's alive, Evelyn, this could explode. Evelyn's gaze held his. Then don't stand too close to the blast. Victor stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I hope you know what you're doing, he said. Evelyn's voice dropped to a whisper. I do. Victor left. Evelyn sat alone in the office and listened to the building's quiet hum. Then she opened her desk drawer and touched the folder. The signatures were inside. A year of grief had become one clean line of ink, and tomorrow she would use it. Back in the ballroom, the audience was still frozen in shock as Evelyn said the words, Nathan Cross is not dead. Whispers spread like fire. Margaret Cross rose halfway from her seat, then sat back down with rigid control. Her face had gone pale, and for the first time she looked afraid, not of grief, but of exposure. Evelyn lifted the folder. This, she said, is the bank trail my husband didn't expect anyone to find. She opened it carefully, like a priest opening scripture, and held up copies, not originals, showing transfers, dates, and the destination. Harborlight Bay. A low murmur. Phones lifted. Lena Park's pen moved fast. Evelyn's voice stayed steady. While the police were told to close the case, while my daughter was told her father was gone, while the company nearly collapsed, money was being wired to a coastal branch under a false identity. She paused, letting the sentence hit. Then she said the fake name out loud. Elliot Ward. The room stirred again, this time with anger, disgust, disbelief. Evelyn continued, I am not here to debate what kind of man does this. I'm here to show you what it cost. She stepped away from the lectern and walked slowly, like someone pacing a courtroom. It cost a child her father. Her eyes flicked to the side where Piper sat with Graham Holt. The girl was dressed in black, small hands folded tightly in her lap. Her eyes were wide, confused, frightened, hopeful in the most dangerous way. Evelyn swallowed, then forced her voice to remain calm. It cost a business its stability, she said. It cost employees their sleep. It cost partners their trust. It cost me a year of my life that I will never get back. She returned to the lectern. And now, she said, it will cost him what he stole. A journalist shouted from the middle rows, Where is he? Evelyn looked toward the voice. Harborlight Bay, she said. The room erupted. Voices, questions, shouts, cameras turning, a storm of sound. Evelyn raised her hand and slowly the noise lowered because people wanted to hear what she would say next. They always do when they realize they're watching something irreversible. Evelyn's next words were the final push. I've already notified Detective Mara Klein, she said, and I've provided the evidence. Mara, standing at the back of the ballroom with two uniformed officers, stepped forward. Her face was composed, but her eyes held something like grim satisfaction. Lena Park's voice cut through the air. Mrs. Cross, did you know for long? Evelyn met Lena's gaze. Long enough. She didn't say that. She said something cleaner. Long enough to make sure the truth couldn't be buried again. Margaret Cross stood abruptly, shaking now. Evelyn, what have you done? Evelyn turned toward her mother-in-law, her voice softened, almost tender. I did what your son wouldn't, Evelyn said. I faced what he ran from. Margaret's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The ballroom doors opened again, and a rush of cold air swept through the room as more officers entered, moving with purpose. The memorial was no longer a memorial. It was a public handoff from grief to justice. Nathan Cross didn't see the news right away. He was in Harborlight Bay, sitting on his small porch with a mug of coffee that tasted too strong. The fog was thick that morning. The lighthouse bell sounded like it always did, steady, indifferent. He had been trying to teach himself calm. He had been trying to believe he got away with it. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He frowned and answered. A voice spoke, sharp, urgent. Elliot Ward? Nathan's blood turned cold. He didn't correct the name. Who is this? He said. Stay where you are, the voice replied. Police are on the way. Nathan's hand tightened around the phone. Why? The voice didn't answer. The line clicked dead. Nathan stared at his phone, heart pounding. He stood quickly, coffee sloshing onto the porch boards. He looked down the street. Fog. Empty road. Wind chimes clicking like nervous teeth. Then he heard it. Not the bell. Engines. 2 vehicles emerged through the fog like shapes in a dream turning real. Police. Nathan's mind raced. Run, hide, deny, charm, plead. He grabbed the duffel bag near the couch and yanked the zipper open, stuffing in clothes with shaking hands. Then the knock came. Loud, certain, the kind of knock that doesn't ask permission. Nathan Cross, a voice called through the door. Open up. Nathan froze. His chest rose and fell too fast. He thought of Evelyn's calm face, her promise. I will keep you dead. He understood, too late, what she meant. The knock came again. Nathan Cross, open the door now. Nathan's shoulders sagged. He opened the door. Detective Mara Klein stood on the porch, eyes steady. 2 officers flanked her. You're under arrest, Mara said. Fraud, identity deception, insurance-related offenses, forgery. Nathan's mouth opened. I can explain. Mara's gaze hardened. Save it for court. They cuffed him gently, professionally, like he wasn't a man who had detonated a family, but just another file that refused to stay closed. Nathan looked past Mara into the fog, as if expecting Evelyn to appear. She didn't. Because she didn't need to. She had already done what she came to do. The news exploded. Not as a tragedy, as entertainment, as outrage, as a cautionary tale with a villain people could point at and feel clean by comparison. Cross Meridian Group's stock wobbled, then stabilized when it became clear Evelyn held legal control and the company wasn't collapsing after all. Partners who had tried to leverage Nathan's disappearance suddenly became polite again. Ridgewell Capital, furious, attempted to renegotiate from a position of threat. Evelyn refused. In a meeting with Simon Ridgewell, the man leaned back in his chair and smiled like a shark. You've turned a scandal into a brand, Simon said. Impressive. Evelyn didn't smile. I turned a betrayal into accountability. Simon's eyes narrowed. Careful. The market doesn't care about morality. Evelyn's voice was calm. Then it's time it learned. Simon laughed softly. You think you're untouchable now? Evelyn leaned forward just slightly. No. I think I'm finally visible. Simon's smile faded. The meeting ended with no deal. For the first time in a year, Evelyn felt something in her chest loosen. Not joy, exactly. Space. One night, weeks after Nathan's arrest, Evelyn sat with Piper on the edge of the girl's bed. The room smelled like lavender and childhood. A nightlight cast soft shapes on the wall. Piper held her stuffed rabbit tight. Mom, she whispered. Evelyn's throat tightened. Yes, sweetheart? Piper hesitated. Is Dad bad? The question was simple. It was also the kind of question that can split a person in half. Evelyn forced herself to breathe slowly, carefully. Your dad did something wrong, she said. Something that hurt people. Piper's eyes filled with tears. Did he stop loving us? Evelyn's heart clenched. She could tell Piper the truth in one sentence. He loved himself more. But children don't deserve adult cruelty. So Evelyn reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Piper's ear. "I don't know what your dad felt," she said softly, "but I know what I feel." Piper sniffed. "What?" Evelyn's voice trembled just a little. "I love you. Enough to stay. Enough to tell the truth. Enough to build something better." Piper stared at her mother, searching. Then she nodded slowly, as if accepting a promise she didn't fully understand but wanted to believe. Evelyn kissed her forehead and turned off the lamp. As she left the room, she paused in the hallway and let herself lean against the wall for a moment. Because being strong in public is one thing. Being strong in the dark is another. Nathan's trial didn't look like movies. No dramatic confessions. No sudden orchestra swell. Just a courtroom that smelled like paper and old wood, and a man who looked smaller every day he sat under the weight of what he did. Evelyn attended the hearings quietly, sitting behind Graham Holt. Cameras tried to capture her expression, desperate for a single tear that could be turned into a headline. Evelyn didn't give them that. Nathan's defense tried to paint him as a desperate man pushed to extremes by debt and pressure. They said he was scared. They said he was trapped. They said he didn't mean to hurt anyone. Evelyn listened, hands folded, face still. Then her turn came. When Evelyn took the stand, the room held its breath. She didn't speak like a victim. She spoke like someone reading a ledger. "1 year," she said. "That's how long I mourned a man who was alive." Nathan stared at her. Evelyn didn't look at him. "That year," she continued, "I handled the company. I handled the debt he hid. I handled the public, the board, and the child he abandoned." The defense attorney tried to shake her. "Mrs. Cross," he said, "isn't it true you benefited from this? You gained control of the company." Evelyn turned her head slowly toward him. "Yes," she said. The courtroom stirred. The lawyer smiled slightly, thinking he'd scored a point. Evelyn's voice didn't change. "I benefited the way a firefighter benefits from a burning building," she said, "by stepping into it while the person who lit the match ran away." The judge's gavel tapped once. The lawyer's smile vanished. Evelyn looked forward again. "I didn't ask for this," she said, "but I refused to be buried under it." In the silence that followed, Nathan lowered his head. He looked like someone finally realizing that his greatest mistake wasn't the fake death. It was underestimating the woman he left behind. After court one day, Margaret Cross approached Evelyn outside the courthouse. She looked older than she had a year ago. Grief had finally stopped being armor and started being gravity. "Evelyn," Margaret said, voice thin, "you ruined him." Evelyn turned slowly. "No," Evelyn said quietly. "He ruined himself." Margaret's eyes flashed with anger and pain. "You didn't have to do it publicly." Evelyn's gaze stayed steady. "Yes, I did." Margaret's lip trembled. "Why?" Evelyn's voice softened, not out of mercy, but out of honesty. "Because private consequences are a luxury," she said. "And your son has lived on luxury his whole life." Margaret's shoulders sagged, as if something inside her finally cracked. "I raised him to win," she whispered. Evelyn nodded. "And he thought winning meant escaping." Margaret stared at the ground for a long moment. Then she looked up, eyes wet. "And you?" she asked. "What does winning mean to you?" Evelyn's breath fogged in the cold air. "It means staying," she said. "It means telling the truth when silence would be easier. It means building something my daughter can trust." Margaret swallowed hard. For a moment, she looked like she might apologize. She didn't. She just turned and walked away, carrying her own version of loss. Evelyn watched her go and felt no triumph, only an exhausted clarity. Not everyone learns, but everyone pays. Months later, Harbor Light Bay entered the news again. Not as a hiding place, but as a symbol of what happens when dreams are built on lies. Evelyn never returned. She didn't need to. She had reclaimed the dream in a different way. Not by moving to the coast, but by refusing to drown in someone else's choices. On a morning when the rain finally stopped in Ashford City, Evelyn stood in her kitchen with a fresh cup of coffee. Hot this time. Piper sat at the table, doing homework, humming softly to herself. The world felt quieter. Not because everything was fixed, but because Evelyn had stopped waiting for rescue. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lena Park. People are calling you a symbol. Are you okay with that? Evelyn stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back, I'm not a symbol. I'm a mother who refused to be erased. She put the phone down and looked out the window. The sky was pale blue, the kind of blue that doesn't promise perfection, but promises space. Evelyn breathed in, and for the first time in a long time, the air didn't feel like a cage. Some betrayals don't come with shouting. Some disappearances don't take a body, only a sense of safety. But if you've ever been left holding the weight of someone else's choices, if you've ever had to rebuild with shaking hands and a steady face, leave a message in the comments. Not because you owe anyone your story, but because you deserve to know you're not alone in it.